Hey, Coach.
How we doing?
Could you talk a little bit about Luke Del Rio and what he's got to try to do to get himself back into that quarterback derby? Because a lot of people are having a tendency to write him off because of the circumstances that he had to face.
Well, the first thing is to be healthy. Obviously, well documented Luke's injuries, and he's done a really good job in his rehabilitation. Very happy with where he's at. And, when you go back and look at the body of work when he was healthy, Luke played some really good football for us last season. So we're excited. Obviously, he'll be right in the middle of that competition.
Ryan?
Just building off that, he kind of told us how he was at a real crossroads this offseason about whether he wanted to keep playing. What kind of conversations did you and he have, and how did you encourage him in that regard?
Well, I think, as in any player, you got to have peace with yourself, and that's a personal decision. And the discussions we had at first were, hey, take some time and really think about the body of work, where you've been, what you've done throughout your playing experience, and there's a lot more to just that moment in time. And a lot of times you get caught up in the moment and to think about all the hours, the sweat, all the things you've put into what you've put into your whole career. You only get one opportunity to play the game, and it's a great game, man. So take some time, think about it, and obviously Luke's a smart guy. He was going to make the best decision for him and his family.
And just overall, how do you size up this competition you have and what you're looking for and how long you think it's going to take to see what you need to see?
Well, I don't think there's a time frame on it. Obviously, Coach and I will visit on that daily, but really excited about competition. I think anytime, said it for 2 years now, when you can create competition within your rooms, it makes your football team better. We're excited about watching the competition and rolling the ball and letting those guys get after it.
Yeah, Coach. So Coach Mack was saying the offensive line is so much further ahead than where it's been. How much did that hamstring you guys maybe, or to do what you wanted to do or execute the way you wanted to execute?
Well, when you come into the situation, I think we had 4 scholarship linemen the first spring when we got here. Obviously, that group's grown. We've played a lot of young players, and really excited about the depth there finally, the ability to have a couple groups. Last year, the only guy really that we were able to keep healthy in one position was David Sharp for the season. So to get a group, hopefully, where we can build some consistency, let them play week in and week out, and to have some guys that have been in some games and developed some experience, really excited about that.
And how much more just physical is this unit going to be? I know Coach kind of called him out even after the Outback Bowl to do that. What have you seen?
Well, it's no secret. We got to run the football better. We have not done that well. We've got to run the ball better. And, that's not just them, but it's a whole team goal offensively. We need to be more physical and run the ball. And, obviously, look out there in the SEC Championship our first year, and we've got 3 true freshmen out there. And anytime you're playing those type of young players in the box, it's difficult. I think it's a lot easier for skilled players on the perimeter to play early on. Just from the strength and the physicality that goes on inside the box. But really pleased with where they're at. We got to take another step, but we've got some depth, and those guys are competing.
Doug, Coach was joking a little bit, but he may have a point and everything. Is it easier in any way for you to coach a left-handed quarterback because you're left-handed?
I tell you what, it's interesting. Being left-handed, playing left-handed, then you reverse everything to teach it right-handed, and now you get a lefty. I think it's almost more difficult now because now I got to train myself to go backwards. But it keeps you on your toes because every time you're talking feet and eye placement and those kind of things, you always got to flip it for both groups. So having Malik now with the lefty, it'll be interesting.
And then leading into that, this is a pretty diverse group in size. Some of them run a little bit better than the other ones. You got left-handers and right-handers. Is there something that these 4 guys, and if you want to throw Kadarius in there too, but is there something all your quarterback candidates have in common that you like? Is there something that they kind of all do well, whether it's a physical trait or whether it's something mental?
I think you talk about the quality of people in the room. And when you look at that position, you talk about guys that are leaders in everything they do in life and the way they approach their day-to-day lives, how they live their lives. They're great competitors, but they're great kids. That's what excites me the most about them. It's exciting to go in the room every day because they're great kids.
And is that why you recruit kids like that?
Well, I think that's in any evaluation of players. You look at the character of the player and what type of player is this player? What type of person is this person? That's part of everything. You need to know, is he a vocal leader? Is he a quiet leader? Is he a non-leader? Is he ultra competitive, or is he just going to be a guy that's going to kind of be a piece? Every player is built differently, and when you get into recruiting, you look at strengths and weaknesses of every player.
Coach
Where you
Mack.
at, Nick? I'm sorry. Okay, sorry.
Coach Mack's probably put a lot of pressure on Brad Davis, as how much he's talked about the offensive line. What specifically gives you guys confidence that they're going to be a stronger unit this year?
Well, like I said, I think that having some consistency in the room, obviously, you look across the offense, really the only room is somewhat you see the same since we got here is the tight end room. But you look at the quarterbacks, the running backs, the receivers, the whole line, they're new rooms. And these guys have been at least here. When you look at Tez being here a couple of years, TJ's been here a couple of years now. Wani started as a young freshman. You got Tyler Jordan, Antonio Riles. All these guys that have been around. Now, Fred, they know, they understand our system. They know what the expectation is, and they've played. So they have some experience to draw on. Now it's just a matter of us doing it on a consistent basis. I think that's something you talk about. I don't think it's necessarily etched in stone. Now, a lot of teams will play actually strong and weak players, in the college game. You see them play an open-end tackle and a closed-end tackle. You don't see it quite as much. It used to be a bigger thing, but some teams still will do that. It'd be something we would consider.
Ryan and then Chris.
Coach, what's been your impression of Malik so far and the way he's assimilated with his team and kind of, worked his way in here with his new teammates?
He doesn't have any personality at all. No, I think that's the biggest thing that stands out to you when you meet him. It's instant energy. He's a guy that can command a room. He has presence. I think the team has gravitated towards that and getting to know him. He's a great personality to get to know, just like our other guys, as they are when they're around Felipe and Luke and Kadarius and Kyle and all those guys and Jake. They all have their own unique personality. But the one thing about Malik, he's bubbly and he's out there.
And when he became official, did you have a conversation with Felipe? Did you sit down with him? And how have you seen him respond and just handle this whole thing?
Well, we talked as a whole group, and anytime, when you add a player that obviously is going to be a high-profile player, so to say, I think the talk is anytime we have the ability in any position to enhance our roster and make our roster better, we're going to do it. And competition only makes all of us better. And I think that's the great thing about that room is that they all realize they're here to compete, but at the same point in time, they're going to compete the right way.
Chris over the right.
Coach McElwain mentioned he's optimistic about the running back room, but what do you see? This would appear that Jordan Scarlett has an opportunity to be a featured back this year. How do you see him diving into that opportunity?
Yeah, well, Jordan had a tremendous season for us last year, almost 900 yards and did some really good things. I think the biggest thing about Jordan was the mentality he brought week in and week out to our offense. This was a guy every week we could count on. We talk about that physical style of play. When you watched him play, he played with that physical style that we want. So you had an actual tangible example of it. And really, really excited about him going into this season. Obviously, LaMichael, playing as a true freshman last year. Now he's got some experience that he can draw on. He's done some really good things. Mark's going to take the next step, we hope. And I think Mark has all the ability in the world. He's just got to take the next step. And then we've got some young guys, that are coming in that are going to challenge. Well, Mark needs to become a consistent performer day in and day out and do the right things.
Jordan over here to the left, Coach.
Right here, Coach.
There.
You guys have a lot of depth at the wide receiver position. How do you see the rotation there playing out, especially with so many bodies to work with?
You got one of those fidget spinner things. You just kind of hit it and it just keeps spinning and spinning. No, we do have depth. We have guys that do different things well. That's going to be the whole key is putting these guys in the best position for what they do well. And obviously, there's only one ball. We've talked about, playing unselfish as a group. And that group's exciting. We've got some guys that can turn the field over fast and really looking forward to watch how they fit in as pieces into the packages that we're using.
And how much does it help to have Dre finally being able, especially since he only played one half last year, to be able to have him as that versatile weapon?
Well, when we came out of spring last year, we're very, very excited about what he was bringing to the table as a weapon. And then, obviously, to lose him in the first game, he's worked extremely hard to get back. And we'll just see, as he progresses through camp, what his package is and how that leg is responding and where he's at.
Hunter all the way in the back to the left, all the way back.
Coach, the biggest improvement, what do you want to see as far as the side of the offensive line? What what group are you expecting to see the biggest improvement out of heading into the season?
Well, I think we need to improve across the board. I don't know that we played good enough to be where we want to be at any one position last season. And once again, I say this, our guys are competing and we're able to create better competition in our rooms than we've had. Every year we've gotten better with the competition in those rooms, which is going to raise our level of play. So I think across the board, we got to play better at every position.
Baker, down front.
Yeah, Kadarius Toney, what kind of weapon is he? And have you had a guy like that, and how did you use him?
You know, he's an interesting guy because he can do a lot of things, like you said. One of the things when the ball's in his hand, he's electric. And I don't know if there's any real comparison, you know, maybe a little bit similar to a Blake Sims who we had at Alabama and the things that he can do. But Kadarius is a special kid. Great competitor. He's still learning everything. I think with any young player, especially playing the quarterback position, you have to be careful to put too much on him at one point in time. But as you saw in the spring, you caught a little glimpse of the things he can do with the ball in his hands. He's special.
I mean, he's the kind of guy you got to find a role for, do you feel? I mean, you
Well,
got to get some touches to him in games.
Sure, you want to find a role for him in a way that he's going to fit in the offense without him feeling like he's got the burden of the offense on him.
Zach in the front to the left.
Doug, when you get to talk to the media or the fans as the coordinator, obviously you always get asked about the offense. And, you know, because of you and Coach Mack, when you look back at your guys' history and the success that you guys have had, obviously fans and media will have their opinions, but do you guys put more pressure on yourselves than anybody else? And as competitors, guys that played, guys that have had success, how frustrating is it for you guys and that you want to get it turned around and get it to where you want it to be?
Well, at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is to win. And we've won 19 in 2 years, which is pretty good. It's not good enough, but it's pretty good. We're not where we need to be. We know that. We got to get better. It's interesting because did we get better? Slightly. When you look at the actual numbers, the numbers are actually better slightly. Now, in the national average, they fell back, but when you look at the actual hard number, you say, yeah, we average a little bit more yards. Yeah, okay, they're not where they need to be. So is it frustrating? No, it's a process. And you want to go from here to there quickly, and we need to go. But at the same point in time, feel like we've set the floor and now we've got to rise. You know, we've had a chance to turn over a couple rooms, get some guys in there that think they can turn the field over now, and now it's time to go get it done.
And then as the coordinator, you obviously build the offense around your quarterback. As you go through fall camp and you're going to have this competition, how do you handle that when you got guys competing that have different skill sets?
That's a great question because obviously it's about the players, not the plays. And you've got to find the plays that fit the players. So when we decide who our quarterback is, obviously we're going to put the best set of plays that fit that quarterback in the game plan. And those are the type of things that when you have different guys, it's building that library, so to say. So, for example, because you may have a guy that's a starter and a backup that does something different, and all of a sudden now the starter's out and the backup's in. Well, maybe the plays that the starter really likes don't fit the backup as well. So now you have to have another set of plays, so to say. So when you go through camp, you build a library as we teach our guys. We're building a large volume here. And then as we go into game planning, we're going to pull the certain books out that fit that game plan, and those are the ones we're going to use.
Over here to the left, Mark.
What kind of a gut punch was it, losing Dre Massey last year? And what have you seen from him to think that he's either close or at where he was before the injury?
Well, he's worked extremely hard in his rehabilitation. Obviously, our trainer's done a great job, and our strength staff getting him back to where he needs to be. And like I say, he was a dynamic player in the spring last year. When you turn on the tape and you watch the things he was able to do for a new player coming in, we really had high expectations. And then in the first game, he's kind of gone. So you kind of go, well, I don't know what it could have been. You know, you had a vision and a thought. It never materialized. So we'll see as we get to camp.
Any limitations on him, like right off the bat for you?
No.
Okay.
Time for a couple final questions. Nick?
Do you think the opponent you guys have had has kind of made guys sharper in what they've done in the offseason? You know, rather than a directional school, the first game, it's Michigan.
I'm sorry, Nick. Say it one more time.
Your first opponent being Michigan, not a smaller school, a directional school, do you think that's helped guys focus in and go and focus on those details that Coach Max talked about?
Well, to me, it's always about us. It's always about it. It's going to be about us and how we perform, how we execute, how we do the things that we know how to do. And you're going to play very good teams in this league. So whether it be week one, whether it be at the end of the season, it doesn't really matter. To me, it's about how we prepare and do we play our best football.
And then for you, a second time you'll be facing your former employer since you've been here. Any emotions for you going and playing against the coaching against those guys?
No, it's about, obviously I know some of the kids in their locker room that we recruited and some people that are on their staff and those type of things. But, I have a great amount of respect for them and care for those kids, but it's about our kids in our locker room.
We'll wrap it up there. You're up front.
Yeah, Coach, a few players spoke how Malik arrived and already knew the offense in and out, inside out. Is that your impression that he's that tuned in already, and is that impressive to you?
Well, he's been around a lot of football, and so, and he loves football. And through the recruiting process, the phone would ring, and hey, I'm watching the replay of this game, and what's that play, and those type of things. So, when you, once again, the quality of people you have in the room, and all of our guys, and they're constantly studying late at night, getting texts late at night. What about this hot? What about this? Those are the kind of guys you want on your team. You want them to love to play football.
Is that unusual, though, for a guy to come in immediately and have such a grasp?
Well, I think probably a little bit, and a little bit due to the fact that he's seasoned. When you start talking about most of the players you usually get are freshmen coming out of high school. Here's a guy, that's been through his time at Notre Dame and those type of things and understands what it's all about.
Is that unusual to have a player call you and say, hey, I'm watching this whole game, and ask what plays?
No, I mean, our guys will do it, to be honest with you, they do it frequently, and it's great. It makes you really appreciate their investment in what we're doing.
Do you remember the plays when they ask you? Or
Sometimes I go, wait, say, hold on, let me flip channels. My kids get mad sometimes, or my wife, because she might be watching a movie, but oh well.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, guys, thanks, guys.
Coach Shannon in the back will be right up.
All right. Back to the old board. Okay. I'll give a statement first, maybe answer some of your questions. This upcoming season, we're looking for big things for us on defense. We're young. We're very young, but, sometimes it's best when people say you're young, but we have a lot of guys that played a lot of football. We're going to miss one of the players on the football team, Marcel Spate, Marcel Harris. To my Spate. Marcel Harris. Injured, won't be able to play this upcoming season. But, like anything else, you have to have an opportunity for some guys to step up. And I always told the coaching staff, we're not the NFL. We can't go find nobody off the waiver wire. We can't cut nobody to go trade for somebody or pick somebody up. We have to coach whoever we have. And we got a bunch of guys that we feel like have an opportunity to come in and help us out and play. I can't tell you who those guys will be. We'll have a great competition all across the board. We have 11 guys that will play on the football field, come on Saturdays or whenever we play on Sundays, and have an opportunity to help us win. It's going to be very competitive this spring. We don't have a starting lineup. I couldn't tell you if this guy's going to be the starter or not. Me and CC talked the other day, CC Jefferson, we were just talking about, hey, opportunities, and then he said, well, Coach, I know how you are. If I'm not standing up to what I need to do on the football field, I won't be a starter. I said, no, you won't. I said, you got to understand, it's about what do you do at this particular time and not what you did in the past. And sometimes as coaches, you rely on what guys did in the past, and then in turn, you forget about coaching other guys to make them become what they can be. So we're kind of excited about this upcoming summer and excited about the young guys we have to go out there and compete and have fun with them.
Gene on the left. That's okay. Coach, I wonder if you comment specifically on a couple of kids. You mentioned CC there, and then Nick Washington. Nick's a senior, so obviously there's a certain amount of leadership I'm sure you're expecting from him. And is CC the point where he's not one of the young guys anymore, and especially since I guess his role is changing a little bit this year, and you've got some younger guys in the interior. You're going to depend on him to help those guys out.
We're excited about Nick Washington. He's a young man that's been here for 5 years. going into 5 years. He's a very smart football player, played a lot of football for us. He's a guy that can get us lined up, play different positions for us. So he knows that he don't have to do anything above and beyond, but that do Nick. And we always tell him, just be yourself, Nick. Don't try to be a motivator. Nick has never been a motivator type of guy. He's been a guy that pulls somebody aside, communicate, talk to him, and get guys lined up. So that's Nick. And CeCe part is CeCe's his first year was able to play 3 different positions. And that's unique for a true freshman to come in and play 3 different positions. And all we're expecting out of CeCe is execute what we plan and master what your technique is at this particular time. Play at a high level. Never play down to your opponents that you plan, and never assume that because I'm CeCe Jefferson, I'm going to have a great day. You're always supposed to prepare and practice to have a great day, and those things will happen.
Randy, when you were last the defensive coordinator at Miami, your defenses were pretty consistently ranked in the top 10. I'm wondering, philosophy-wise, do you take anything from that last stint as the game kind of changed, or how do you view, being a defensive coordinator at this point, 11 years later?
Game has changed a lot, and each year you got to find a way to find out what your talent is on defense. What we did in the bowl game probably won't be the same what we do in this upcoming season because it's different talent on the defense. So, but you have to always have them guys playing fast. If guys can play fast without thinking a lot, then you're going to be very successful. And that's the whole thing we're doing as a defensive staff, is trying to find what can we call so the guys will not have to think that they can just fly around, have fun, but play fast. So when you have a guy, maybe a guy that's running a 4.8, but if he's playing fast, he's going to look like he's running a 4.6. So those are the kind of things that we want our defense to do, just really to fly around but play fast at all the times.
Randy, you said you guys have a lot of young guys, but you have guys that have played. When you look at your unit and the fact that you guys lost 8 starters from last year, 6 from the year before, 14 players in 2 years is a lot of turnover. For most defenses, most coordinators, it would be tough to deal in that situation. And you guys do have a lot of underclassmen. But are you unique in that there is not a lot of inexperience?
It's unique because you take it for instance. You look at the D-line. Kavanis has played, CeCe's played, Jabari's played. So that's 3 guys return. You got Kerry, Clark, and Bryant. That's 2 guys inside have played. Then you go to 3 linebackers, even though they all freshmen or redshirt freshmen, they all played. You take Chauncey, you take Nick, you take Duke. They've all played. Most of the times in football, a lot of times you look at returners and stuff like that. People keep forgetting about how many games they've actually played in or have started before. And the difference is when you have a true freshman playing in his first college game, prime time, that tends to wear on you. But if you have guys who've been in like major games and that have really played some football, it really don't affect them that much. Experience-wise, probably age, like being seniors and fifth-year seniors, we're very young. But like anything else, those guys accepted that we're not going to have an excuse just because we're young far as age-wise, but we still played football at the University of Florida. So we've taken that approach, and those guys are really taking that approach also.
One of your trademarks as a coordinator was taking safeties out of high school and growing them into linebackers, and sometimes taking linebackers and growing them into defensive ends. I know you've done that with Kylan, might do it with Jeremiah. With the injury to Marcel, have you put any thought whatsoever about, because of the depth that you've put together at linebacker, about maybe finding some ways to use Kylan in the way that you use Marcel scheme-wise?
No, not really.
Is that something you could do?
You could, but not really. We'll leave Kylan where he's at. The one thing that we'll do, so you guys know ahead of time, we're going to play the best guys on the team, okay? And don't make this as a depth chart. Now, don't look at this as a depth chart. Nobody in here, okay? If the day would start just by end of spring, we would say, who's the best 4 guys? It would be Duke, Chauncey, Nick. And then you have to say, okay, Quentin Linton wasn't in practice. Juwan Taylor wasn't in practice. The only guys you got is Putu and C.J. McWilliams, which really Putu. So you would say, okay, you got 3 corners. Now you have to move somebody back to safety. So we're playing the best guys at that particular time. And like I will tell you, by the end of this camp, it may be 3 corners playing. 4 corners on the football field. It may be 4 safeties on the field. I could not tell you. It's just who's ever the best fit and can give us a chance to win. Because sometimes you think about, well, here's the starting safety, here's the next safety. With us, who's the next best DB? Same thing with D-line. Who's the next best D-lineman, not position-wise? So we count in that role, whoever's the best guy at that group, those are the guys we need to continue to get in and get them a chance to play.
Is it tough to put that on your defensive backs to where
No.
you want them to play potentially 3 different spots?
No, they won't play 3 different spots. It's just like, for instance, if we have 2 corners doing very well, and then we have a 3rd corner doing very well, and we have 2 safeties, and one of these safeties not really playing very well, why punish a guy who's doing very good? Just put him back at safety so you're getting your best guys on the football field. That's more what we'll do.
Randy, along those lines, what have you seen out of the development of Chauncey, and what's it like having a guy who has that kind of versatility in your secondary?
You know, he's a special guy. He's a really special guy that has played he's played corner, he's played nickels, he's played safety in his early age, and converted back to safety during the bowl time. Had a tremendous game, played well, did all the things we needed him to do. But then also now we say who's our best guys, like we was talking about. We couldn't have Nick and Marcel and Chauncey in the game on the bench. So we moved Chauncey this spring to corner to get the best deal in. So I think by him playing 2 positions has really helped him. He reminds me of a little bit of like Antrell Roll had when I had at Miami, that he can do multiple things. And that's what Chauncey, he can do multiple things, but you got to have him tuned in to what he needs to get done. Don't try to make him do too much where he's not successful.
Given the time they missed, what potential do you see for Juwan Taylor and Quincy Linton this year?
Well, they've been out a lot. They didn't practice this spring. They're going through rehab. Coming out of high school, we had high expectations for them, and we continue to have high expectations for them. But like anything else, we tell everybody in the football team it's just competition. Don't settle for being second. Do not settle for being third. Always challenge yourself to be the best guy on the football field at that particular time. And those guys will challenge, and the guys behind them will challenge them. So we're kind of excited about it because it's been, from listening to those guys talk this summer, is that everybody is helping everybody. Nobody's having an ego. Nobody is like a young guy coming in may want to take somebody's position, but he's listening. And the older guys are teaching them what they need to do to take their position, because it's if someone gets hurt, who will be the next guy up? So don't take it upon yourself that this guy is taking my position. This guy is competing, and if I don't step up my game, then, well, he deserves to take my job.
And then David Reese indicated that he played hurt the last few games and wasn't at total full abilities. What's the next level for him this year now that he's healthy again?
Take that next step. Playing as a true freshman at University of Florida at linebacker in those type of games was tremendous for him. Now he's got to take that next step of learning what you did last year. Now take the next step of increasing your knowledge, increasing what you can do. Every time a linebacker can increase what he built on learning-wise, he would be a very successful player. And he, in turns, have to be the quarterback for the front guy. Make sure those guys are lined up and playing fast. Take a lot of pressure off of them, because big guys, like anything else, they play the game, they get tired. You got to encourage those guys when they're tired, and also get them lined up quick so they can put their foot in the ground and get vertical in certain situations.
Yeah, Coach, what's your expectation from the collection of the freshman cornerbacks, and do you feel like these guys are going to be in the mix and need to be in the mix?
I really don't know, but when we go out recruiting, it's we try to tell everybody, and I'll tell parents this in the home. When we come out to recruit a young man like these freshmen, this whole group that we have in from D-line back to linebacker and secondary, we're telling them that we're bringing them in to take somebody's position. Now, vice versa, once you get here, we're going to bring somebody else to take your position. So it's the competition factor comes about. Well, not just the secondary, but these big up-front guys that we have in has made a little change with some of these D-linemen that we have, because they're pushing themselves a little more, because the talent that we brought in at defensive line kind of scares the guys who's older. Same thing at linebacker. We brought in some athletic linebackers that are about 215 to 220. They're kind of athletic like the guys we have. So it's stepping their game up. And then you're bringing this group of freshmen DBs who are big, tall, long, rangy guys that have a lot of speed because that's the one thing they can do. They got a lot of speed. It's now making the other guys like Putu and make sure that Nick is on top of his deal, Duke is on top of his deal, make those guys playing successful. So it kind of helping us out in the way of guys not being satisfied that they have younger guys coming in that are pushing to make them take their position.
Given the depth, though, do you need one of them to emerge potentially?
I hope all of
Or
them
two?
emerge, to be honest
Okay.
with you. But if we can get any of them to emerge, we'll be fine.
And the middle of the defense lost a lot of key guys. What's your confidence level with what's returning, and what do you see with that?
We got
kind of
guys
group?
returning. I mean, we got two guys that played defensive tackle last year that are starters coming back. Luke Ankrum is a returner. We just got to get some younger guys to come in and just play. We don't need – here's the thing at D-line. You do not need guys to play about 70, 80 plays. You really don't. If you can get guys to play, your older guys to give you about 40, 45 plays, and the younger guys to give you 15 plays, eventually they'll get up to about 80 or 90 plays. But it's got to be the selective time when you're playing so everybody's fresh, and then they can play at a high level.
Yeah, Coach, with the loss of Brantley and Ivy last year, and with Clark and Brian kind of taking that next step in, can you talk about their development over the summer, where they are as far as, stepping into that role?
Well, I mean, they had a great spring. I mean, they've tremendous. Kerry Clark has done a great job since the first time we hear of maturing. He's kept his weight off probably for the first time in a long time that he's actually worked to keep his weight out and being flexible, being quick twitch. Taven Bryant has done a tremendous job this offseason of getting bigger, getting stronger, and just learning what we do. The one thing that these guys are really concentrating on is learning the defense and not just playing football. Because if you learn the defense, you would know the strengths and weaknesses of what each defensive call is. And they've done a tremendous job up front of learning that, and that's made them a better player this spring. And we're just going to build on what we did this spring and carry it over into the summer. And that's the only thing we can concern about is what they do in the summer. And then once summer is over, then we take that next step. We practice at a different level, so everybody's going to get about. In a day's practice, everybody, even the young guys, DBs, linebackers, D linemen, will get a minimum of maybe 35 reps. Minimum. So they're going to get a lot of reps this summer. Yeah.
Two final ones. Hunter on the top left.
Coach, what's the biggest improvement you want to see from your defense as a whole from last season headed into Michigan?
Well, the biggest thing we have to do is just build on what we did, but also we have to be able to, when adverse situations come, accept the challenge and knock them down. Don't just settle for if somebody gets on a roll, stay within what we're doing. Don't panic. And we're looking at what we did on defense. We did a lot of great things, but sometimes in games, and when we lost, it was like when something happens bad, everybody started taking chances and not playing what we do. So it's our job as a defensive staff to make sure that this summer, this camp, that we put them in tough situations where something's going to go wrong, and make sure that let's go, we're okay, let's keep playing, everything's going to work out. Because one play is very, very valuable in the game, but it's like anything. If somebody get a 60-yard run, a 40-yard run, as long as they do not score a touchdown, you have a shot. That's all you want. You want to line up and play again. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we're going to emphasize this camp is, hey, when somebody get a big play, okay, let's line up and play. Calm down and play the game, because the next snap, it could be a turnover. Next snap, it could be a bad snap. It could be anything that can happen negative for offense, but we have to get our minds right and make sure that we're playing what we need to get done.
Randy, is there any kind of mindset you want to bring to the defense, or you got to kind of bring pressure or be aggressive?
No, it just depends on what we can do. It's always with me is it's got to find out on what we can do. And we'll run some defenses in practice. We'll run different fronts, different coverages. And then when that's all said and done, when it gets about maybe that 10-day period out, then we got to say, okay, what can we do as a defense where these guys can fly around? Who's our best 11 guys that can help us get to where we need to be at? And then that's when we'll decide on what we can do. I don't know. I'll put it just, we played, God, I hate to say this. We played Virginia Tech one year. And it was at Virginia Tech, and it was like 2 in the country. But we had corners. We had some real good corners. So the first 18 plays we blitzed. 7-man blitz, 6-man blitz, 1-man blitz. We just blitzed. Well, by us doing that at that particular time, we got a lot of negative plays. Well, that's because we had real good corners, so we was able to do certain things like that. So you have to figure out what you can do at a particular time to know what you're going to do as a defense. You run everything. You run 2 high, 1 high, 0 blitz, 1 high blitzes. You do everything in practice at a lot of volume of it, and then you figure out, okay, this is what we are. This is what we can do.
Thanks, guys.
All right, good. Thank you, fellas.